this because some journalists and some public figures working with brave whistleblowers and victims were refusing to be silenced. The Times newspaper broke the story first back in January 2011 with that dramatic front page. I interviewed one of the original victims and whistleblowers as the host of Good Morning Britain back in 2018. He was a serial rapist. You weren't his only victim by a long way. He was the ringleader of this infamous child grooming gang in Rotherham, right? I didn't even know that anybody, any rapist, could ever get access to any child born from their appalling actions.
Let alone be invited.
But he was jailed for 35 years, right, for multiple sex offences against 9 Rotherham girls, including you. This isn't just somebody who committed one rape against one person. This is a serial groomer and rapist, the worst type of human being imaginable, preying on young girls as you were, right?
Yeah.
What? I mean, this clearly has been. This won't be the only time this has happened, presumably. What should be done to the law to stop this nonsense?
Well, I'm asking for a change in law for the Children's Act 1989 to ensure that no rapist can apply for access to a child conceived through abuse and rape.
So the point is, the scandal was covered by mainstream media, both television and newspapers. Not enough, in my opinion, as a journalist. But it doesn't mean also that it wasn't a massive cover-up. It was covered up by almost everyone involved in this. We know that a documentary on the grooming gangs was postponed to avoid aiding the right-wing BNP in local elections. We know a senior police officer in Rotherham, where many of these atrocious crimes took place, told a victim's father the town would erupt if the details came out. We know that in towns and cities across the country, up to 50 of them, authorities had a crystal clear picture of a small section of a community that was ultimately responsible for the vast majority of the most wicked crimes. They were, in the main, British, Pakistani Muslims, almost exclusively. The politicians, law enforcement, local authorities conspired to bury the truth because they were afraid, in many cases, of being labelled racist if they told the truth. Many of these young victims are raped and abused for years because of this culture of conspiracy and fear. That is simply unforgivable, and it must never happen again. Now, the reason why so many people are now demanding a full national inquiry, and I've been one of them. In fact, today, just before I came on air, Elon Musk has replied yes to my post on his platform, X, demanding a national inquiry and demanding Sir Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, order it, is because so little has actually been done with the findings of the previous investigations. And the reason it's become a global story now is because Elon has snapped many people from their inertia on this by amplifying so many horrific details that people may otherwise not have known. And that's where Tommy Robinson comes in. People may or may not know my views on Tommy Robinson. I think he has a long, very ugly record of brazen race baiting. In my opinion, a very open and transparent hatred of all things to do with Islam and consequentially most Muslims. But whatever his motives, and remember, this guy's been in prison 3 times now for a multitude of crimes and is in prison right now, nothing to do with the rape gang scandal, but everything to do with his sickening lies about a young Syrian refugee, which he then compounded by repeating, despite a court order not to. There's no doubt that, to be fair to Robinson, he has banged the drum about the rape gang scandal for a very long time, and he should be credited for doing that. In fact, he was on Newsnight on the BBC just a month after the Times broke the story with Jeremy Paxman and said this.
Do you know anyone that's hooked on heroin sold to them by Muslim gangs? You probably don't. I do. Do you know any beautiful girls that you went to school with that are now wearing a burqa that don't see their family? You probably don't. I do. Do you know anyone who's been murdered by a Muslim gang? You probably don't. I do. Do you know any 15-year-old girls that you know that you've grown up with that have been raped or pimped? You don't. So I don't expect you to understand the issues.
These are all personal issues of yours.
Personal issues in towns and cities like mine that are happening, and they're not happening with the Sikh community, they're not happening with the Jewish community.
And indeed, they're not happening with most Muslims.
No, they're happening within the Islamic community. That's what I'm saying, that it's an Islamic problem.
Well, that interview, as I say, came after the front page I showed you earlier. It was the Times that broke this story, that exposed it. It carried on a lengthy campaign. And for the avoidance of doubt, Tommy Robinson, like I said, he's not in jail, as so many in America in particular seem to think. for his whistleblowing about the rape gangs. He's in jail for contempt of court, a crime he's committed many times. It's a crime in America as well. You can be jailed for contempt of court in America. People have been. But many in the US seem to see Robinson as a beacon of truth, who's been pivotal to exposing this evil. I don't see him like that. I believe, as Nigel Farage does, the leader of the Reform Party in the UK, that he's now so toxic and so discredited that he is in fact being used deliberately as a kind of opposition sacrificial lamb with a precise aim of discrediting those who do want to expose the truth. If they make it all about Tommy Robinson, a lot of people will just go, well, he's awful, therefore we shouldn't listen to anything he says. But actually what he says about the rape gangs then and now has turned out to be true. And the truth must come out. Lessons must be learned. Those accountable must be punished. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, must, as I posted earlier today, order a full, no-holds-barred, independent national inquiry. Well, joining me to discuss all this is psychologist, author of